Hello, this is James Reese and welcome to another edition of Razorwire from Razorthorn. So, it's been a little while since I've done a video. I've been away on business, got back recently, so time for me to restart doing the Coffee with Jims. I'm sure you're all well aware there's been a recent supply chain attack on a very large US provider of technology called Kaseya. Needless to say, it's causing quite a significant amount of problems at the moment in the world because Kaseya provides technology that allows the remote management of companies' technology. This has been especially bad, so it's been reported relatively recently, about the Swedish co-op grocery store who had to close all of its 800 stores because it couldn't operate the cash registers, which is pretty bad for an organisation that relies on that in order to sell their produce and take payment. There's been quite a few organisations who've been implicated in this particular recent attack. The group involved are well known for putting up online who they've attacked, standard kind of ransomware. They've obviously gotten in. They then fingerprinted the environment, taken control of a number of different organisations' servers, and dropped in the ransomware and obviously ran it and started encrypting everything. As we've said before, and I said I wasn't going to do another ransomware video, and this isn't really so much about the ransomware itself. I think we've covered a lot of that, and there's been a lot of rhetoric around that. There's been people saying, should it be illegal to pay the ransom? Lots of people are coming out of the woodwork, lots of vendors saying, utilise our product and you will protect yourself from ransomware, and so on and so forth. So I think that's been pretty much done to death. But the attackers and the malicious actors that are undertaking this, quite rightly, are starting to look objectively at the targets. If they can compromise a large-scale service provider who provides support systems, software solutions, whatever, to a larger group of companies, then there is the potential there for them to compromise more than one organisation and undertake attacks that normally they do individually, but en masse on one group of organisations, implicating that service provider as the source. It cuts down on the work, basically. I don't think that organisation, the organisation Kaseya, is going to find it particularly easy to recover from this. There's going to be no doubt a lot more information coming out over the next few days. Obviously, this happened last week whilst I was away. I was aware of it at the time, but wasn't in the studio to be able to undertake this particular video. Plus, I did want to kind of see really where this was going before I did a video on it. But needless to say, I think this is going to be every bit as bad as the SolarWinds attack. It's going to push security a lot higher on people's board list of things to do, and I think in many respects that's a good thing. It's not obviously good for the organisations that have been attacked, but we are looking at some serious security issues in the future. I think a lot of the predictions that you see on how much cybercrime is going to cost, they're going to be probably on the low side now, because this is the new world. Somebody gets into your systems, encrypts it, ransoms you, boom, done. You're screwed. You either pay and you get the means to decrypt it, or you don't pay and you don't get the means to decrypt it, and your dirty laundry is sifted through and aired online to make you look bad, and then potentially incoming fines from GDPR, PCI DSS, whatever it may well be. This is something now that has reached a point where we can't really ignore it. A lot of organisations don't spend enough on security. And as I always try to say, security doesn't need to be expensive, it just needs to be effective. And that's very much the case here. If you layer your security products correctly, then you can go a long, long way to protecting yourself and your organization from this type of attack. How do you protect yourself from attacks coming in from the supply chain? That's a little harder. Where to begin? At the end of the day, if you've got a key service provider, then first port of call is to ask them how they secure their systems and how they're going to secure systems that are related to you or that they're providing to you, so that you don't fall into the same problem that Kaseya's customers are no doubt experiencing at the moment. In many respects, you need to kind of go back to the drawing board and think objectively and carefully about the services that these third parties and these critical third parties in your operation are providing to you. Are they providing management? Are they undertaking management? What kind of access do they need in order to do what they do? Do they need a perpetual VPN? Do they need permanent kind of access on a day-to-day basis to perform their function? Or is it something that can be done as and when required? If they require perpetual access because they're providing, I don't know, log management or management of servers or that kind of thing, then what can you do to protect yourself from nasties coming down from that neck of the woods? This is where you have to go back to the baseline defense in depth. IDS, IPS, encryption of your data is becoming more and more the way I think things need to go. You don't have to encrypt everything, just that key data that you don't want being pushed out into the big wide world. Nobody gives a stuff about your brochures, you know, your sort of websites, that kind of thing, and all the code and details and documentation behind stuff that you publicly release or are about to release. That's out in the big wide world anyway. But when it comes to your financials, when it comes to your customer data, when it comes to your payment data, whatever that may well be, legal data for legal firms, accounts of other organizations for accounting firms, you need to be really, really, really careful. And encryption, and adequate encryption, is probably the only real way to go to prevent the more insidious part of the ransomware attack from being able to be done. And I'm talking about the ransom side of the attack. If they can't access your data, they can't release it. Or they can say they've got it, but even if they do release it, it's encrypted. But that's only assuming that you've protected your keys. There's a number of different operations out there, encryption companies, new encryption companies. We've spotlighted one or two of them on this channel, who would do very well in an environment for protecting you from just this type of attack. We use it ourselves, obviously for a majority of the customer data and the more sensitive data that we hold. Do we do it for our marketing material? Not really. We don't really encrypt that because it goes out to the big wide world, or it's about to. Is it expensive? It's not overly expensive. There is a cost to it, but then the cost, when you look at this objectively, for adequately encrypting your data, going through maybe some of the functions you need to change in order to encrypt your data as well. It's a lot cheaper than having a ransom demand and having potentially a really horrible PR issue that you need to resolve, if you could ever resolve it. IDS, IPS, good firewalling, good access control, good management, good log management. There's a whole plethora of things here you can do, and a lot of these are kind of baseline security items that most of us security professionals have been recommending for quite a while. But with this way that we are working now, where we're predominantly remote, you've got to bear in mind the landscape has changed, and the way we consume our technology as a business and as individuals has desperately changed as well. Things are very different in the technological world today than they were 10, 15 years ago. 10, 15 years ago, You tended to get more on-premise stuff where organizations would have their own servers. Okay, they'd be housed in data centers usually managed by a third party, but the racks and the systems and the services and the virtual systems that they had were predominantly managed in-house or by usually that same or a very different third party. Now everything is cloud-based. You're very much more reliant on third-party security to maintain at least a baseline level of security that you can overlay on top. And that's really where the key thing is. Every organization is going to say they're secure, but you have to almost take a zero trust view on it. Okay, you may be secure, we're going to check that. But also we need to look objectively at how we run our security from a technical sense, from a governance sense, and a security awareness sense, people, process, technology, that old jet. To make sure that we're up to date in what we're doing. Look at the products that you're using. Are you using older products that maybe are a little bit more stale? Have you updated those products to the latest versions? Are you looking objectively at your defense in depth and saying, right, what do we need in today's world? You may have a number of systems and solutions that you've been running for a number of years, but it's time for a refresh, especially if you've got a vast majority of your users at the moment or your employees working remotely. That in itself opens up all kinds of doors into your internal infrastructure. So you need to cater for that. It's time for us to really sit down and map and objectively look at the security within our organizations. Once we've done that, it's time for us to get a bit of budget. If you're a business owner, think objectively at what type of budget you want to put in to secure your systems. And be warned, when you do this upgrade, this update, the initial investment is going to be higher than potentially what you're going to need to spend down the line, because obviously you need to procure these solutions, do projects to implement them, and so on and so forth. But it's worth putting the time, the money, and the effort into that to make sure that you don't end up in the same situation that we've seen a lot of other organizations in. Can you afford to pay the ransom? Can you afford the bad PR? If you're an organization who wants to grow in the modern world, then you have to take security seriously. You go back 10, 15, 20 years, it was a very different playing field. It is not the same today as it was back then. So do something, do anything. And if you don't have the internal people, get security professionals to come in, either employ them, procure them from an organization such as Razorwire or any other organization who does a similar kind of thing, to come in and help you do that. Don't rely on IT people. I'm not saying IT people are bad. There's a lot of very good IT people out there who have a very good handle on security. But security professionals is what we do day in, day out. If you don't have a CISO, then look to get somebody into that role. Either train them up, procure them, or get CISO as a service from one of the various different companies that do it. We do it, for example, for a number of different companies. It can be cost effective to do it that way rather than having somebody on board on a permanent basis, but at least you've got the advisory, at least you've got the skills in that space that you can pull upon to help protect your environment. Because if you don't, you're going to end up like a lot of these others at some point. It might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, but it might be in a couple of months. Who knows when it's going to happen? Do something now to protect yourself later on down the line. And I must admit, nothing is going to be 100%, okay? You can put in all the security you want, but there is no such thing as 100% security. You can be very, very secure and it can cost you a lot of money, but is it going to be cost effective to do so? As I said, security doesn't need to be expensive, it just needs to be effective. So look objectively at your organizations today. Look at exactly what plans you currently have. DR plans is another good one. People don't run DR tests on the DR plans. War game through scenarios with ransomware. It's the attack of the day. It's going to continue to be that. So war game yourself through it, role play through a scenario. How would you react? How would you back up? What would be your response? How would you bring on PR people, media people to help deal with fallout when this gets to the media? You know, and please, if you are an organisation looking to do this, please don't start saying things like we take the data of our customers seriously, or it's a sophisticated cyber attack. It may well be reasonably sophisticated, but everybody says that, and nobody respects it. The same as we take the security of our customer data seriously. It's just a palliative that is said after an attack is done. There are a lot of organisations at the moment that are quite open about how they've been attacked, what has happened. Okay, they probably haven't given you all the information, but they've given us enough to be able to figure out roughly what's probably happened. Enough at least for you to wargame it through. So do it. Make sure you secure yourselves. Make sure you take it seriously. As an addition, if you're looking to procure these products, we have been putting together packages of products that can protect against this type of attack and give you a much less chance that you're going to be affected by it. We offer 5% off for anybody coming in and quoting Razorwire, so please get in contact with us using the details down below. Thank you for all of you who have subscribed and commented. It's either publicly or privately. It's fantastic to get the feedback. If you want us to cover anything, then give me a shout on the contact details below, and I will be more than happy to put together a video. We have a number of videos lined up. I'm going to be busy over the next 2 weeks on a number of different things, but one of them is going to be a number of videos, spotlights on technology, that kind of thing for future release. So look after yourselves out there, speak to you all soon, and stay secure. Goodbye.